She fired me while answering emails. Didn't even look up. I'm Hank Mercer, 54 years old, Chief Systems Engineer at Crestline Systems, Columbus, Ohio. 21 years at that company, and the CEO's 33-year-old daughter just ended my career without making eye contact once. I'd walked into conference room B at 8:45 that morning, thinking it was our weekly systems review. Same room, same time slot I'd used for years. The burnt coffee smell from the break room down the hall, the hum of the HVAC that facilities had promised to fix since 2019. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nobody else showed up. Diane Weston came in 14 minutes late. No apology, no explanation. She set her coffee on the table, pulled out her chair, and sat down across from me while her thumbs were already moving across her phone screen. She didn't say good morning. She didn't say anything. Just kept scrolling like I was a piece of furniture she'd walked past 100 times. I'd known Diane was coming. Not to this meeting specifically, but I'd known she was coming to Crestline. Lloyd Weston, the CEO and founder, had announced it at the All Hands in January. His daughter, fresh from Northwestern's MBA program, joining as Chief Innovation Officer. 33 years old, 4 months in the building. Zero engineering background. The team had questions. Lloyd had answers that didn't really answer anything. In those 4 months, Diane had managed to do a few things I won't forget. In her second week, she sat in on a CoreVault architecture review. CoreVault was the infrastructure security system I'd built from scratch. The thing Crestline ran on, the thing that won us federal contracts, the thing I debugged at 2 a.m. when the Series B was on the line. Diane listened for about 12 minutes, then raised her hand and asked if we could make CoreVault more emotionally intuitive. I thought she was setting up a joke. She wasn't. When I explained that industrial infrastructure security systems don't detect feelings, they detect intrusion events and anomalies, she typed something on her laptop. I caught a glimpse of the screen, Hank resistant to modernization. 3 weeks before she fired me, Diane presented CoreVault to the board. Full slide deck, polished visuals, a room full of investors and directors. I wasn't invited. Nolan Briggs was in that room, though. Nolan was 29, systems engineer, one of the best I'd ever trained. 4 years under my supervision, knew CoreVault architecture as well as anyone alive except me. Nolan texted me that night, just one line, "You need to hear this." He'd recorded it on his phone. I listened to it at my kitchen table with a beer going warm next to me. Diane's voice, smooth and confident. The core logic of this system, the encryption framework, the modular architecture, I developed the foundational approach myself when I came on board. The team executed well on my vision. I sat there for a long time after that audio clip ended. She was standing in front of the Crestline board of directors, claiming she'd designed CoreVault, a system I'd architected before she'd graduated college. Before she'd ever heard of Crestline, before she could have told you the difference between a firewall and a load balancer, I saved that recording. 2 weeks later, she renamed the system, no meeting, no memo, no conversation with engineering. One morning, the internal project portal just showed a new name. VaultEdge. New logo, new brand guidelines, a press kit ready to go. I found out when Nolan forwarded me the all-staff email. The announcement included a quote from Diane about evolving the product identity to reflect our forward vision. There was no mention of who built it. There was no mention of me at all. I sent Diane an email asking when engineering had been consulted on the rebrand. She replied 3 days later, "Thanks for the note." The brand evolution is a strategic decision. Happy to loop you in on the comms timeline. That was 2 Fridays ago, so when she finally put her phone down that Tuesday morning and looked at the table, not at me. At the table, I already had a pretty good idea what was coming. Your role is being eliminated. Effective today. Flat practiced, like she'd said it in front of a mirror a few times. There was a manila envelope on the table pushed to my side. I didn't touch it. Gloria Tanner from HR was sitting in the corner. She gave me a look I'd seen before on people who know something's wrong and have decided it's not their problem. "Where's Lloyd?" I asked. Diane's eyes went back to her phone. "He's in strategy meetings this morning. He wanted me to handle this personally." Right? Lloyd Weston, the man who'd hired me when Crestline had 11 employees and a leaky roof. Who'd shaken my hand every Christmas for 21 years. Who'd told me in 2019, in front of the whole company, that I was the backbone of what they'd built. That man was in a strategy meeting while his daughter eliminated my role without looking at me. "Is there anything else?" Diane asked. "No," I said. "We're done." I picked up the envelope, stood up, and walked out. Past Nolan's desk on the way, he looked up, saw my face, saw the envelope. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The parking garage smelled like concrete and exhaust. I sat in my car on the third floor, same spot I'd parked in for 21 years when I could get it, and didn't move for about 20 minutes. I didn't open the envelope. Didn't need to. I knew what severance packages looked like. What I kept thinking about was my father. Earl Mercer worked the floor at Belhaven Steel for 38 years. Started as a loader at 21, worked his way up to floor supervisor by his early 30s. He knew every machine in that plant by sound. Could tell when a hydraulic press was going out of calibration just by standing next to it and listening to the rhythm change. Management called him in on weekends when something broke down and nobody else could figure out what was wrong. He was that guy, the one who actually knew how everything worked. In 2003, Belhaven brought in an automation system. New private equity owners, efficiency targets, the whole thing. They walked my father out at 59 years old. Cardboard box, handshake, escort to the parking lot. 38 years, gone in an afternoon. He spent his last years doing odd jobs. Some consulting, some weekend repair work. He never said much about Belhaven after that, but I could see what it did to him. The way a man carries himself when he feels like everything he built belonged to someone else the whole time. Before he died, he left me a voicemail. I still have it on my phone. I've listened to it more times than I can count. His voice was tired but steady. He'd been working late, I could tell. "Hank, they took my job because I didn't own anything. I showed up every day for 38 years, gave them everything I had, and when they didn't need me anymore, they just turned off the switch. Don't let that happen to you. Whatever you're building over there, make sure your name is on it, not theirs, yours. File the paperwork. Own your work. Machines took my job. Don't let them take your name too." He wasn't a lawyer. He didn't know IP law or provisional patents or LLC structures. He was a machinist who understood one thing at a bone-deep level. The company always owns more than you think, unless you do something about it first. I listened to that voicemail maybe 100 times the month after he died. Then I did exactly what he said. Patricia Voss was an attorney who'd handled some of my father's personal legal work over the years. Wills, property, small business matters. She wasn't an IP specialist, but she knew enough, and she knew people who knew more. I called her 3 weeks after the funeral, told her what I was building at Crestline, told her what my father had said. We set up Mercer Technical LLC in Delaware. Then we filed the provisional patent on CoreVault version 0.9 alpha. Full core architecture, encryption protocols, modular framework, everything that formed the foundation of the system. Owner and original architect, Hank Mercer. That filing was completed 7 weeks before Crestline made me their full-time offer. Patricia never sent me a bill. When I asked about it, she said Earl was a good man. He deserved better than what they gave him. Consider it done. When Crestline brought me on full-time and I signed the licensing agreement, their legal team looked it over, saw my signature on the CoreVault documentation, and filed it under standard employee inventions. That was the assumption. That was always the assumption. Nobody in that legal department checked the dates. Nobody noticed that version 0.9 existed before my employment contract did. I had buried 2 clauses in the licensing agreement. Clause 8.2 stated that no system renaming, rebranding, or public repositioning of CoreVault could occur without written approval from the original architect. That was me. Clause 14.1 stated that termination of the designated lead architect would trigger automatic suspension of all CoreVault licensing rights until written authorization was provided by the licensor. Also me. Diane had renamed my system Vault Edge at a public industry expo 2 weeks ago. No written approval, no communication to engineering. Just a press kit and a quote about forward vision. And this morning she had terminated the lead architect without a single piece of paperwork crossing my desk as licensor. She had triggered both clauses in 14 days. I drove home, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with the original documents spread out in front of me. The LLC registration, the provisional patent filing, the 2015 licensing agreement with every clause intact. I went through every page twice, the way my father always said to read anything important. It was all there. Clean, legal, exactly as I remembered. Then I waited. Because incompetence at that level doesn't stay quiet for long. It announces itself. The email came 3 days later. Wednesday morning, 9:18 a.m. I was still in sweatpants. Subject, confidential inquiry. Sender, Walter Oakes, Chief Technology Officer, Vantage Infrastructure Group. I set my coffee mug down. Vantage was Crestline's oldest competitor. We'd been going head-to-head on federal contracts for years. In the industry, Walter Oakes had a reputation as the kind of engineer who read every document before he signed anything. Old school, thorough. The type that made legal departments nervous because he actually understood what he was agreeing to. His email was 4 sentences. He knew about Mercer Technical LLC. He knew about the provisional patent. He'd tracked core vault filings as part of Vantage's competitive intelligence and had noticed something Crestline's own lawyers apparently never bothered to check. The core system wasn't owned by Crestline, it was owned by me. The last line, we believe the original architect should decide where his work goes next. Would you be open to a conversation? I read it 3 times, then I typed back 2 words, in person. His reply came in under 40 minutes. Monday, his office in Cincinnati. He'd cover travel, keep it quiet. I said yes. Then I went back to the kitchen table and started pulling out every document I owned. Vantage's office in Cincinnati was nothing like Crestline's headquarters. Crestline had gone through a renovation in 2021. New lobby, floor-to-ceiling glass, a reception desk that looked like it cost more than my first car, the kind of building designed to impress people who didn't know enough to look past the surface. Vantage looked like a place where people actually worked. Functional layout, open server room visible through a glass wall on the 2nd floor. Whiteboards covered in system diagrams that clearly hadn't been erased in weeks. I felt comfortable the moment I walked in. Walter Oakes met me in the lobby. 58 years old, looked like someone who'd spent 3 decades building things instead of presenting about them. Firm handshake, looked me in the eye. You said you did your homework, I said. Show me. He didn't waste time. Took me straight to a conference room, no tour, no small talk. Opened a folder on the table. Inside was a complete breakdown. My LLC registration from Delaware. The Core Vault provisional patent filing, time-stamped, a timeline he'd had someone build showing version 0.9 alpha, submitted 7 weeks before my Crestline employment contract. Clause 8.2 and Clause 14.1 both highlighted in yellow with handwritten notes in the margin. You're the owner, he said, not them. We've known about Mercer Technical for about 2 years. We were waiting to see if you knew. He slid another document across the table. Exclusive licensing agreement. $740 million over 10 years. Title on the signature line. Chief Technical Architect, Vantage Infrastructure Group. Full approval rights on all derivative works. Office, team, resources. We don't hire pedigrees, Walter said. We hire architects. I read every word, every clause, every term, every definition. My father taught me that. Read everything twice. Trust nothing you haven't verified yourself. Walter sat across from me and didn't say a word while I read. Didn't check his phone, didn't try to sell me on anything. Just waited. It was clean. More than fair. I looked up. What happens to Crestline? That depends on them, he said. The moment they try to deploy VaultEdge, expand any Core Vault integration, or sign new licensing agreements with clients, they'll hit your clauses. Clause 14.1 already suspended their rights the day they terminated you. Their lawyers will figure it out eventually. But that's not your problem anymore. He was right. It wasn't. I signed it right there. We shook hands. Walter nodded once, like a man who'd gotten exactly what he came for and didn't need to make a production out of it. Patricia Voss moved within 48 hours of my signature. She sent cease and desist letters directly to the procurement offices of 2 county government clients that Crestline had been in active contract discussions with. Not to Crestline's legal team, straight to the procurement officers themselves. The letters were clean and specific. The vendor you are negotiating with cannot guarantee intellectual property ownership of the core system in question. Federal and county procurement guidelines require verified IP ownership before contract execution. Both procurement offices pulled out of their discussions with Crestline the same week. They didn't wait for a court ruling. They didn't wait for Crestline's lawyers to respond. Procurement officers deal with IP compliance questions every day, and they know what a liability looks like. At the same time, Vantage submitted my original Mercer Technical filing into their federal contract applications for 3 infrastructure projects. That submission triggered an automatic IP ownership audit on Crestline's existing federal agreements. Once the federal procurement system flags an IP dispute on a vendor's core product, it doesn't quietly go away. The press release went out Friday morning. I was drinking coffee on my couch when my phone started moving. Vantage Infrastructure Group partners with Hank Mercer, creator of CoreVault Core Architecture. By 10 a.m., it was on every industry newsfeed. By noon, the engineering blogs had picked it up. By 2 p.m., it was on LinkedIn. And my phone had notifications I stopped counting. Former colleagues I hadn't heard from in years. Engineers from other companies I'd met at conferences, a few people from Crestline I wouldn't have expected. All variations of the same question. Did Crestline really not own CoreVault? I didn't answer most of them, but Nolan sent me something Saturday morning that I did pay attention to. Audio file, no message, just the attachment. File MZeems, internal exec record in 24A. I sat up in bed and hit play. Chairs scraping, someone adjusting a microphone. Then Diane's voice, higher than I'd ever heard it. Wait, he filed this under a separate LLC? When? Lloyd, tight and controlled. 7 weeks before his employment contract. The provisional patent predates his full-time hire. The licensing agreement we signed in 2015 governs our rights to CoreVault, and that agreement has clauses. Silence. Long enough that I thought the recording had glitched. Which clauses? Diane asked. 8.22 and 14.1. The Voltage rebrand at the Industry Expo triggered 8.2 that required written approval from the original architect, which we never obtained. Terminating him suspended our licensing rights under 14.1. Both happened within 2 weeks of each other. A third voice, male board member by the sound of it, who approved the rebrand, who reviewed the original licensing agreement before that announcement went out. Silence again. I had the marketing team handle the brand rollout. Diane said. Her voice had dropped. Marketing isn't legal counsel. Sharp, controlled anger. Who signed off on the IP review? Nobody answered. This is fixable. Diane again, faster now. We contact him. We offer equity. We offer a new agreement. Better terms, whatever he needs. Lloyd's voice cut through flat and final. He already negotiated. With Vantage. $740 million, exclusive licensing, 10 years. The announcement went public yesterday morning. The silence after that was the longest one yet. When Diane finally spoke, her voice was almost a whisper. He went to our competitor. Because we fired him, someone said. Not Lloyd, someone else in that room. Because you fired him. Without consulting legal, without reviewing the licensing agreement, without a single conversation with IP counsel before that termination meeting. The recording cut off there. I set my phone down on the nightstand. Coffee had gone cold. Outside my window, Columbus was doing what it always did on a Saturday morning. Nothing dramatic, just the city going about its business. I felt the same way. Monday came like any other Monday, except it wasn't. The first lawsuit hit Crestline at 9 a.m., class action from a group of Series C investors. Complaint alleged material misrepresentation of core intellectual property ownership in investment disclosures. Their lawyers had clearly been working the weekend. Second lawsuit landed at 11 a.m. Series D lit investor. Same allegations, larger numbers. Third one came at 2 p.m. A federal infrastructure client with a $47 million CoreVault deployment agreement signed 3 months ago. They wanted full contract invalidation based on Crestline's inability to guarantee IP ownership on the system they'd just installed. Crestline's stock opened down 14% Monday morning. By close, it was down 23%. Tuesday, another 11% at open. By Wednesday afternoon, the total sat at 41% from Friday's close. Over $600 million in market cap. Gone in 4 trading days, Nolan kept me updated without me asking. He'd send a text, no commentary, just facts. Monday evening, new CEO search already started internally. Board meeting went 3 hours, Tuesday afternoon. Diana pulled from all external meetings. No official announcement. Wednesday morning, 2 more investor calls this morning. Lloyd looks like he hasn't slept. I read them all. Didn't respond to most. Wednesday night, Diane posted something on LinkedIn. I only saw it because a former colleague forwarded it to me. She'd written about being grateful for her time at Crestline and excited to support the company's next chapter in a strategic advisory capacity going forward. The comments were running about 200 before she turned them off. I didn't read them, didn't need to. Thursday morning, the board made it official. Lloyd Weston stepping down as CEO, effective immediately. The public statement used the standard language, pursuing other interests. spending more time with family. Transition to new leadership. Nolan forwarded me the actual board minutes an hour after the announcement. The real language was different. Vote of no confidence, 7-2. Resignation demanded due to failure of IP oversight and loss of institutional investor confidence, 28 years. Lloyd had built Crestline from a converted warehouse with 11 people into a company with federal contracts and Series D funding. Gone in 1 week because he let his daughter rename a system she didn't own and fire the man who built it without reading a single line of the contract governing its use. I sat with that for a while. Not with satisfaction exactly. More like the feeling you get when you watch something inevitable finally arrive. My phone rang Friday afternoon. Unknown number. I almost let it go. Mr. Mercer. A woman's voice, professional, measured. This is Jennifer Moss, Interim General Counsel at Crestline Systems. Do you have a few minutes? I'm listening. We'd like to open a conversation about a potential settlement regarding the CoreVault licensing situation. I think there's a path forward that works for both parties. I looked out the window at the parking lot below. Same view I'd had from this apartment for 9 years. Nothing changed about it. Send it in writing. I said, my attorney will review it. Of course, can I ask? I hung up. The email came 2 hours later. Subject, Settlement Proposal Confidential. I opened it, read the first paragraph, closed it. Then I deleted it. 3 weeks later, Diane sent me a text. She said she knew things had ended badly, said she was looking at some new opportunities and was hoping I might be willing to provide a professional reference. Said she thought we both knew the circumstances had been complicated. I read it twice, then I typed back one sentence. Read your contracts first. I put the phone down and didn't think about it again. My first day at Vantage felt different from any first day I could remember. People nodded when I walked past. Not the performative kind, just acknowledgement. Like they knew who I was and what I'd built and didn't need to make a thing of it. Walter took me up to the engineering lab on the 3rd floor that morning. Rows of workstations, server racks humming in a climate-controlled room, whiteboards covered in diagrams that people were actually using. Your team, he said, gesturing to a group of 6 engineers around a central workstation. They've been studying CoreVault documentation for 3 weeks. They're waiting on you for the next phase. One of them stood up. Young guy, maybe 27, the kind of nervous energy that comes from someone who actually cares about getting things right. He reminded me of Nolan when I first started working with him. Mr. Mercer, he said, I've read your original provisional filing about 30 times. The encryption structure in version 0.9 alpha is still the cleanest implementation I've seen for infrastructure security at this scale. How did you know it would hold up under federal deployment requirements? I looked at him hungry. Respectful of the work, not the title. I didn't know it would, I said. I built it to solve one problem correctly. Clean architecture, minimal dependencies, modular by design. The scaling came later because the foundation was solid. That's the only way to build anything that lasts. He wrote that down. 6 months after that first day, Vantage announced a $680 million contract with the Department of Homeland Security. Critical infrastructure security across 17 port facilities along the eastern seaboard. CoreVault at the center of every system. My architecture, my protocols, my name on every technical specification in the federal filing. Nolan texted me the afternoon the announcement went public. That's massive. Congrats. I wrote back, how are things over there, honestly? Quiet. Smaller every month. Maintenance work mostly. Nothing new being built. I'm looking around. Send me your resume. I typed. He sent it 10 minutes later. I forwarded it to Walter with one line. Best engineer I ever trained. He also knows when to hit record. Walter replied in 20 minutes. Bring him in. That evening I sat on my couch with a beer and pulled up my father's voicemail. Hadn't listened to it in months. Machines took my job. Don't let them take your name too. He was right. They fired the employee, they never owned the engineer. If you've spent years building something real, a system, a process, a body of work that a company runs on, and you're starting to feel like the institution values your output more than your name on it, pay attention to that feeling. It's telling you something true. Your employer can eliminate your role, clean out your desk, and walk you to the parking lot. But your signature on the right document, filed before they ever hired you, filed when the work was still yours, that's not something anyone can take. Not without your permission. My father learned that lesson the hard way on a factory floor in Ohio. I learned it from a voicemail he left me after 38 years of giving everything to people who didn't read the fine print. Own your work. Before they tell you, they already do.